Hey everyone, I'm Uncle Reddit. Welcome to another episode of Entitled Parents, where we get an up-close look at the darker side of parenthood. Please remember to subscribe and hit that like button. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. Our first story comes to us from user Yup It's No One. Entitled mother gets annoyed when I don't give her a certain bag, then becomes mad when I donate to charity. I'll just provide a little bit of context for this story. I live in New Zealand, and here it became illegal for business, supermarkets, dairies, stores, anything, to provide customers with single-use plastic bags on the 1st of July 2019. However, most supermarkets stopped providing plastic bags on the 1st of January 2019. Almost every Kiwi has their own collection of reusable bags that we bring to the supermarket to put our shopping in. They can range from 50-cent paper bags and dollar material bags, or they can be the nicer straw-like ones that cost $3 to $6. The story. A few weeks ago, after I finished work, I went to the supermarket to do my shopping. Before I went into the store, I was in the car park sorting through my car's boot to find my reusable bags. Like many fellow Kiwis, I do have quite a few bags, but after I come home from doing the shopping, I bring them into the house and I forget to put them back into my car. I had 2 straw bags in my hand when I heard a woman's voice from behind me. "Excuse me," she said. I turned around and saw a mom with 2 kids next to her. The mom didn't seem like a regular Karen. No haircut, no attitude, sunnies, condescending tone, nothing. I won't call her a Karen, but she still belongs on this sub, so I'll just stick with Entitled Mother. Entitled Mother had a genuinely sweet tone, and her 2 kids seemed pretty well behaved. Hi, I replied. "Sorry to bother you, dear, but I was just wondering if I could use one of your bags. I forgot mine at home, and I'm on a bit of a budget. It would help me out heaps." Yeah, that's all good," I replied. I looked into my boot to see what I have left. I had 2 straw ones in my hand and 2 material ones left, so I grabbed the material bag and gestured it to Entitled Mother, saying, "Here you go." "Oh," she said, still sounding very genuine. "I was hoping to get one of those bags in your hands." At that moment, I can see the confusion. Entitled Mother can only see the 2 bags that were in my hand when she approached me, and the bags were pretty cool looking. "Yeah, nah, sorry, ma'am. I really like these bags, but I reached into the car and grabbed the second material bag. "You can have both of these. I don't use them." "Neither do I." There was a bit of an awkward silence before she started again. "My kids really like those bags that you have." "And I like them too, which is why I want to keep them." "Well, do you have kids of your own?" "I'm only 20, but I've always looked older than I am, so I didn't take any offense." "No, but I'm keeping these bags. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you can have the material bags." "I don't want those cheap bags." Now she started to sound more Karen-like, and points to the bags in my hand. "Those are kitty bags, and my kids really want." I said I'm on a budget. "I'm on a budget too, so I'm keeping these bags." "I'm all good with you keeping these material ones. I thought you said you forgot your bags, so you just need to use these material ones once and then bring your own ones next time." "Fine," she said with a raised eyebrow. She snatched the material bags from me and said the most condescending "ta" I've ever heard in my life. She leaves, and I carry out my shopping. Once I'm done, I head to the checkout. I noticed there is a donation box for the Australian fires by the till. Kiwis and Aussies have always had a sibling-like relationship, and I also have some of my family living in Australia. I look at my purse and take out a few $1 and $2 coins I had in there and dropped it into the donation box. I was almost done and ready to leave until... "On a budget, are we?" I heard a familiar voice. Entitled Mother had just lined up behind me. Bugger. "Can I help you?" I ask. "So you can't spare me and my kids a few nice bags, but you can waste your money on that?" she says while pointing at the donation box. "Unbelievable." "Sorry, ma'am. I didn't know that giving a stranger 2 reusable bags and donating to charity was a bad thing. You could have given us the nicer bags, young lady. Or I could have given you no bags. My kids really wanted those bags." "Well, they're mine, and you're not entitled to strangers' possessions." By the time I finished my last sentence, I was done paying for all my shopping and started to leave. Blimmin' heck, I was knackered after work and just wanted to do my shopping without some entitled mother having a wobbly over a damn bag. Our next story comes to us from T'Challa Udaku. Entitled Father Tries to Kick Me Out of University. My freshman year, I was roommates with a guy who had fairly well-off parents. Let's call him John. John was a child actor, and although he isn't one you'd recognize immediately, he's played side characters on big sitcoms and did some voice acting on some pretty popular kids shows. His parents hold him to very high expectations and were very strict with him and his acting. So when he got into our university, which is considered a top 10 university globally, his parents held him to that same standard, which for a new liberated young adult with almost no maturity, he did the exact opposite of everything he should have done. He slept all day, partied all night, never studied, didn't go to class, etc. Yet, when his parents would call him to check up on him, I would always be mentioned in the conversations. They needed to make sure that I was a good influence on their son, they would tell him. They would consistently ask if I was partying often, doing drugs, bringing girls over late into the night, pretty much everything he was doing. They wanted to ensure that I wasn't doing it to keep their son safe. This goes on for months. Whenever his parents would call him during his midday nap and I'd be in between classes, I'd always hear him defending me to his parents, and he'd go beet red whenever I'd walk in and hear what they were saying about me over the phone. So I'd leave and wait until his call ended, since I knew he already felt embarrassed enough. I didn't really think of what they were saying either. I just thought it was ironic and told John afterwards that he didn't need to apologize since they weren't his thoughts. Around the end of the semester, John is told by his major department that he would likely flunk out of college if he didn't ace his final exams in at least 2 of 4 of his classes, and that he would have to retake the other 2 regardless of how he did. Moreover, that he would lose a scholarship that paid a substantial amount of his tuition. He had to call his dad to tell him the bad news, while I was on the top bunk of the bed studying, and his father is shouting so loud that I can hear him through John's phone with my earbuds in. Eventually the question is asked if I had anything to do with John's bad grades. And before John can say anything, his dad determines that John was covering for me because I was a bad influence, and that since I was around him all the time, I was the reason he failed. He demanded to speak to me and wanted me to tell him everything I did to his son and how I corrupted him. And when John said that I didn't do anything, it only made him angrier. And after telling me that I would pay, he hung up. He already knew my name, and of course where I lived, but I didn't think he would do anything with that information, until I got a call from the university's Student Affairs Center, telling me that John's father had requested access to my personal information through the student portal, basically a website with financial aid and enrollment information, and to change my password in case I thought that my data was at risk. I tell John that his dad tried to access my info, and of course he called his dad to ask him what the F he was doing. Dad said that because John was failing, he was pulling John out of college, and that he was coming in a few days to talk to me about my part in all of this. John asks him again why he asked the school for my info, and John's dad just hung up on him. I couldn't focus on that BS at the time, since I had my own exams to prep for, but as he said he would, he showed up as this fairly skinny, balding guy, desperately trying to cover up his receding hairline by brushing his much stringy blonde hair to the front of his head. I came down with the flu right before exams, so sadly I was forced to be in the room while John moved out, with his dad berating the both of us, while I have my earbuds in and feel like I'm going to puke. John looks like he's going to cry because he doesn't want to leave, and I peek over my laptop to see his dad putting books and notes in the garbage, and repeatedly asking John if he officially withdrew from the university, until John just barked, "Yes!" at him. John's dad then turns to me and says something along the lines of, "Alright, now you." Again, I insisted I didn't do anything to his son except live with him, and the dad demanded that because I turned his kid from an accomplished actor into a college dropout, I should withdraw from university too. John is now yelling at his dad to leave me alone, and I'm telling them that there's no way I'm dropping out for his ego. He demands my laptop and portal login info, and I tell him that if he even so much as touches my laptop or me, I'm calling the police. This escalates to a straight-up shouting match among the 3 of us until the RA knocks on the door, warning us that if we don't quiet down, he'll get campus security to come and settle the issue. The dad quiets himself again and calmly asks me to withdraw again because it's only fair. I say no because, again, I didn't do anything. There's a silence in the room as he approaches the edge of my bunk. He's glaring at me. I'm putting my earbuds in because chemistry won't study itself. And he asks again, gripping the railing and almost hissing the question. I say no, again, didn't do squat. He finally decides that I'm not worth talking to anymore and says that he'll tell my parents everything I did and it would make me leave college if he couldn't. And with that, he left with John. I got a text from my dad about a day later, and that both he and my mom basically told him and his wife to F off, and never contact me again in far more eloquent terms. I then got a barrage of emails and texts and Facebook posts from the parents pretty much saying that I was at fault for ruining their son's life, and that I didn't deserve that seat in my university, so I blocked them. Every now and then my parents would get Facebook messages or emails, and they were ignored. John angrily reacted to my graduation pics on Facebook a few months ago. So out of paranoia that they were spying on me through his account, I blocked him too. I hope he understands. Wow, some parents really got a lot of nerve doing that kind of stuff. That's very, very entitled. Good for you for standing your ground though. Our next story comes to us from You Selkie Storm. My son won't do women's work. When I was working as a nursery worker, we used to get some real crackers, entitled parents wise. One still sticks out in my memory though. Cast: ED equals entitled dad, SNW senior nursery worker, PK poor kid, me is me. Every day we would set up several activity stations around the nursery, all gender neutral, etc. Things like sand tables, art activities, dress up. The problem started when ED came to pick up his son and saw him washing his cup after snack. The kids had a small basin of soapy water to wash their cups before we took them and put them in the dishwasher. Every child was responsible for their own cup. Entitled dad: poor kid, what the heck are you doing? Put that down and get over here. Senior nursery worker: hello ED, what's wrong? Entitled dad: why is my son being forced to do women's work? Senior nursery worker looking confused: what do you mean? Entitled dad: washing up is women's work. Why is he doing it? Senior nursery worker: every child takes responsibility for their own cup, spoon, etc. It's part of them learning to take personal responsibility. Also, our nursery is a place of equality. There is no women's work here. Entitled dad goes ballistic. Entitled dad: he won't be doing women's work and that's the end of it. Senior nursery worker: please, entitled dad, don't raise your voice at me. If this upsets you so much, then we'll stop him from doing women's work. Please follow me to the office and clarify what you do not want him to do. So at the end of the day meeting, we found out that he was to eat a snack, but he wasn't allowed to prepare it, which is a pity because he really loved snack prep. He was allowed to drink his juice and milk, but he wasn't allowed to rinse his cup like the rest of the children. He wasn't allowed to participate in dressing up. He might put the girls' costumes on and grow up gay. Imaginative food play or participate in the baking sessions. Cooking is women's work. Edie told us that he would be speaking to his son and that his son would tell him if we made him to do anything that he had forbidden. We were not happy, but we had to follow his instructions to the letter. So along comes baking day. Guess what one of PK's favorite activities is? The kids all loved baking day because at the end of the session they got to take whatever they had baked home with them to share with the family. We tried to distract PK by keeping him at other activities and sneaking his group into the kitchen without him seeing, but we were honestly fighting a losing battle. Poor kid had been smelling the cupcakes and eagerly waiting for his group's turn. Cue meltdown. Me: poor kid, don't be sad. There are lots of other things we could do. Would you like to paint some flowers? Poor kid mumbles: flowers are for girls. Me: oh, okay. Shall we go play in the sand then? I think the big yellow truck is out today. Poor kid looks sad, and we go off to play with the sand. Skip to the end of the session. Everyone is picking up their little ones, who all have bags of cupcakes to take home, except that is poor kid. He looks like someone just kicked his puppy, and all of the staff are upset because of it. Entitled dad comes through the door and looks around. Notices his son has no cupcakes and makes a beeline for us. Entitled dad: why doesn't poor kid have any cakes? Senior nursery worker: I'm sorry, entitled dad, the kids bake them themselves, so they get to take their work home. Poor kid isn't allowed to bake, so he doesn't have any to take home with him. Entitled dad: just put some in a bag for him so we can leave. Looks at senior nursery worker and I as if we should snap to attention. Senior nursery worker: I'm sorry, entitled dad. Nursery policy. If the kids don't do the work, they don't get the reward. Entitled dad: you have spares. I can see them on the workshop. Pushes me and senior nursery worker out of the way, walks into the kitchen and tries to grab another kid's bag of cakes. Senior nursery worker gets in his way. Those are not spare. They are other kids. We have no spare. Please leave the kitchen. By now, PK is bawling and all the other parents are staring, so he leaves the kitchen. Entitled dad gets in SNW's face. Give him the cakes now. Senior nursery worker: if you continue to act in a threatening manner towards staff, we will be forced to call the police. At this point, the kid who owns the spare bag of cakes comes to collect them so he can go home. She is absolutely rocking her Down syndrome, but at that point wasn't very verbal, so we had to get down to her level to speak Makatan to her. I crouch down with the bag of cakes in one hand and start signing "good job" and "see you tomorrow," when I'm suddenly sent flying. I fall backwards and hit my head on a bench as entitled dad rips the bag of cakes out of my hand. Senior nursery worker: that's it! Leave now before I call the police. Entitled dad storms out of the nursery, cakes in hand. with PK trailing after him. After they picked me up and checked I wasn't badly hurt, calmed everyone else down, and called the police, all the kids that were left donated one of their cakes so everyone had some to take home, and they were gone before the police arrived. I think he got a warning from the police, but we never saw PK again. I still wonder what he turned out like to this day. Thank you all for commenting and proving that, thankfully, guys like dads are soon to be figments of the past. Thank you also to the kind person who gave this post gold. Our last story comes to us from You Vote Dog. EM's kid fails a test. EM insists he be allowed to take it again. Teacher says no. EM goes up the ladder demanding she get her way. I've posted here before about my entitled selfish sister and her sons. She's a big-time helicopter parent, doing everything for her kids and then freaking out when something happens to them she can't control, such as bad grades. A few years ago, my nephew failed a test and had to get his parents' signature to prove they'd seen it. My sister, entitled Mom, upon seeing the failed test, immediately emails the teacher and demands he be allowed to take the test again. She leaves a laundry list of excuses for the failure. He wasn't feeling well, sports have been hard on him this year, he's not sleeping well at night, blah blah blah. She claims he had a bad day and has a right to take the test over. Teacher says no. Nephew knew about the test well in advance and he failed it because he didn't know the material, not because he was tired. Entitled Mom argues with him, saying he's being unfair and claims he lacks compassion. Teacher is like, sure, whatever, he's not taking the test again. So what do you think Entitled Mom does? Goes above his head, of course. She contacts nephew's counselor first, trying to be his BFF so she can get him on her side and use him against the teacher. Counselor wasn't having it. He agreed with teacher, said nephew should ask about extra credit. So what do you think Entitled Mom does now? Goes to the principal, of course. She sends principal an email asking to meet with him about something, but doesn't say what specifically. This is her way of ensuring that the teacher and counselor aren't there when she brings up the test. She sets up a time well after school when she assumes everyone is gone. Imagine her surprise when she shows up and the teacher and the counselor are both there. The teacher told his side and said he would not allow nephew to try again, period. The principal says he won't force the teacher to do anything he doesn't want to do. Entitled Mom complains the teacher is picking on her son. Wonders aloud if this is a personal issue. Even suggests my nephew may need to change to a different teacher. The others say nothing, they're used to her unfortunately. You'd think that's the end of it, but it's not. She felt personally attacked, and wrote a series of emails to the school board and the superintendent. She demanded action, claiming that the principal asking the teacher and counselor to be there was wrong because she hadn't been asked if they could attend. She felt bullied. She received one reply, and it basically said they backed the school and everyone who worked there. She replied back to them several times, and they never dignified her with another response. To this day, she feels like they were all out to get her. She refuses to admit that her kid failed the test. It's always someone else's fault. Yup, too many people like that in the world today, OP. I used to work in a school, and I've seen lots of parents like that. It's amazing. Alright everyone, I hope you're having a great day and that you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and keep a lookout for more of these little gems from Reddit. So long!